Hi, my name is Jacob Sky, the Bio Guy, and I have a special guest with me today, Professor Colette Donlin. Today we will be talking about several ideas: speciation, natural selection, and mutations. Let's begin.
I'm Professor Colette Donlin, and I conduct biological research at the University of Michigan. Before we begin, I think it's important to know the terms we are talking about. So what is speciation?
Good question, Professor. Let's find out.
Speciation is when populations of a species that share the same habitat become reproductively isolated from each other, leading to the development of two distinct species.
Wow, Professor, that is so cool. How would this happen, though?
Well, there are actually 5 circumstances that could cause speciation. Ecological isolation is when two species that could interbreed do not because they live in separate areas.
Temporal isolation is when species cannot interbreed because they breed at different times of the year, such as a species breeding in winter and a species breeding in summer.
Behavioral isolation is when two species perform different mating rituals, such as this frog and this cricket.
Mechanical isolation is when species cannot physically interbreed, such as this caterpillar and human.
Finally, geographical isolation is when there is a physical barrier separating species from interbreeding, such as these squirrels separated by the river.
So, I know there's a lot of species in this world. How did they all come to be? What makes them different from one another?
Those are great questions, Jacob. Let's use this picture as an example. DNA is a substance that is in every living cell. It is the code for life. No two organisms share the exact same DNA, but different species have very similar DNA to one another.
Wow, that's very interesting, Colette. But I've heard people talk about this thing called natural selection. How does that tie into all this?
Natural selection is the process of organisms who are better suited for their environment, surviving to pass on their DNA to their offspring, while other organisms die off. Members of the same species can inherit different traits from their parents that cause them to have a better chance of survival in their environment. For example, on different islands in the Galapagos, there exist different species of finches. Some have thicker beaks and some have thinner because they're more suited for the food that's available on those specific islands. Eventually, these traits become prominent in the population because those individuals with the specific trait are more likely to survive than others.
Are different traits a result of mutations? A mutation is a change in DNA that often causes a change in appearance. Your genotype is your genetic code, while your phenotype is your physical appearance that comes from your genetic code. So, therefore, any change in your genotype, such as a mutation, will result in a change in your phenotype, like your appearance.
That's right. So mutations cause genetic variation and drive natural selection.
Well, guys, unfortunately, this is the end. I hope you learned something today. And remember, this video covered speciation, natural selection, and mutations. Thank you to our guest star, Professor Colette Donlin. And see you next time on Jacob's Guide, the Bio.
Why do you fill me up, but